The other day I had a Dodgers fan post a question, and I was kind enough as an awesome Red Sox fan to answer that question. I also informed him this is where it's at. Whether that viewer ever comes back to see this, I just figured I'd remind him who won the World Series this year. Alright, enough about that. Let's actually take a look at these fans. Let me change hats, and we'll get moving into this video. And we're ready to go. Let's start with the plain and simple fact that for $36 you're getting 5 RGB fans that are diffused on both sides. So you've got loops on the front, loops on the back, depending on how you want to orient it in your tower. These specifically are going to be case fans. That's important to note because this is not necessarily something you want to put on a radiator. Their RPMs stick somewhere between 1100 and 1200 RPMs. That's not something that you want necessarily if you need something that can go up to 3000 RPMs or that roundabout range, depending on how much heat you're putting through a radiator, for instance, if that's where you're thinking about putting it. Just remember, these fans are not PWM fans. They're going to be one static mode fan. And another thing too is they market it as 18 LEDs. It's actually 17 on both sides, which is, okay Google, 17 plus 17.
The answer is 34.
The answer is 34, so a total of 34 lights on both sides. You like that? I don't do math in my head anymore, I've got to Google. You get the 5 fans, 1 hub. The hub is Molex powered, so you have to plug it into Molex. I know that's disgusting and nobody wants that. I think SATA is the way to go if you're going to make and manufacture fans. Quit doing Molex. 6 fan slots total on the hub itself. So they give you 5 fans, but if you wanted to buy that extra one and you needed that 6th fan, the hub will support up to 6 fans plus 2 extra 4-pin channels for LED lights on the side. Each fan is a 23-inch cable. This makes it nice and easy for routing it, at least in most mid-sized towers. The pin connection is a 6-pin proprietary pin connection. A lot of these say they don't work together, but I'm actually going to be looking at this when I take the Up Here hub and I take the EZDIY hub. I'm going to try and see if the fans will actually talk together, because there's programmable modes. I'll cover that in a minute. The fans are a hydraulic bearing fan, which is pretty typical in most fans that you're going to see that aren't made by like Noctua or something with their SSO rifle bearings and all that fancy stuff. But anyways, you can expect somewhere between 15 to 20,000 hours out of these fans. The fans do look excellent, and one thing they've got going for them that the other fans that I just looked at in a card up here, if I haven't already posted it, is the fact that the anti-vibration pads or the rubber feet, they come already installed on it, so you don't have to sit there and punch out little holes and try to install that yourself. Seeing as these are very similar fans to those fans, it's noteworthy to say they're actually a little bit louder. Now, I didn't get any good audio where I could really kind of show you just how much louder they are, and to say that they're louder may be a fallacy. They're not necessarily super louder, they're just more noticeable, and the reason for that is they put this janky design on all the fan blades. The fan blades are this tinted plastic that you can see through. I'm not necessarily a fan of that myself. And they put this weird design on there that I believe is supposed to make you feel like it's pushing more air or doing better, but realistically all it does is make an awful design that probably scatters the light a little differently, but creates drag. And this drag, as the blades are spinning at that 1100 to 1200 RPM, is going to pick up a little bit of sound. Over 5 different fans, you get a little additional sound, and I think that it wasn't worth the trade-off. Something without a fancy, silly design on it, because I don't want drag and I don't want the extra noise. I prefer them to be more quiet and just look good. So as long as you follow the instructions, you can actually go in there and tell it what RGB is, and really all you're doing is tricking it. If you want to make it yellow, purple, and red, you can do that, and it'll essentially say, oh, that's what RGB is supposed to be, and I'll change how I sync my color patterns, which would effectively change all of your color patterns. A quick thing to note too is they say there's over 300 different color patterns on there, but you may notice things like breathe are still missing off of this budget fan. If you stay tuned at the end of the video, I'll go through a couple of the modes as quickly as possible, just so you get an idea for what you're looking at. So while some basic modes that most of us would expect to be there are not there, they say there's 300 different modes, and most of them are the same mode repeated with 2 or 3 different colors in it. I don't know if that should constitute as 300 different modes, but I guess technically it does. Including off, there's about 11 steps of brightness, so you've got 10 actual light steps and then off being 11. On speed, I lost count, but it's somewhere between 12. Anywhere from that 6-7 range down, it's going to look a little choppy, and this is due to the limited amount of LEDs that are actually inside the diffuser. The less LEDs you have, the less fluid the motion's going to look on a lower speed, so the higher speeds are probably what's going to look better, unless you prefer that choppy stuff. And while it's diffused pretty well in there, I think that they probably could have done a better job diffusing the light, as you can notice each of the LED lights in the ring itself. That's just something I figured I'd mention, because some companies will do it a little bit better, but sometimes you've got those just very obnoxious, bright, hot spotting LEDs, and I'd like to see that just more diffused and look a lot cleaner. I'll go out on some ending thoughts here. I think that it pushes air very well. Now, as far as the CFM and all that, I don't have a way to accurately measure that to really articulate it to you, but if you will note, the plastic plant back there, it doesn't move very easily. You'll see that they're angled away from it, and they're making it jump around a little bit. They do have a lot of push that goes through there. They're pulling air, they're working well. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. I would say I would have liked to have seen some solid color fan blades, something black or white, even maybe a gray, something different, and not that trend transparent tinted plastic. I especially don't like that design on it. That creates a little bit of extra drag and makes for a little bit extra noise. But for $36, you can't really argue with this. It's 5 fans with a hub, a lot of control over them using an RF sensor. So something to note about an RF sensor too. Any of the ones that have RF sensors, if you're using multiple devices like the heat sinks, check the card, or other devices that use RF sensor, if you're using one remote, even if it's not the remote that's made programmed to be compatible with it, you'll end up janking all kinds of stuff up by using that one remote. So you might want to do one set per hub at a time. I don't know if that makes sense. So if you want to do your RGB on your RAM heat sinks first, and you've got something like the EZDIY heat sinks, make sure you set those first, then plug the fans in, unplug those, as painful as that sounds to do, and then set those and get them linked up. Just be mindful that other RF devices will interfere with this. Guys, that's really all I have to say about it here. We'll end this video now so that you can check out some of the different modes. I'm gonna run through them pretty quickly. If it's a little fast for you, I apologize. There's just kind of a lot to cover with it. Anyways, guys, have a great day, night, whatever it is. I'll see you in the next video that I do. And, you know, Manny Machado. I'm not gonna leave that part in the video.